Thank you to all of you. And you have made it to the final session. My colleagues are handing out copies of the Tokyo Declaration on Universal Health Coverage, which will be presented in this final session. Before we get started on this panel, though, I want to ask everyone, when this is over, to please stay in your seats for a few minutes because we have some special guests who are coming in as soon as this panel is over. So while we're getting set up, I would like to introduce our moderators. We actually have two moderators for this last session. We have Mark Dybel, the faculty co-director of the Georgetown Center for Global Health and Quality. And we also have South African singer-songwriter Yvonne Chaka Chaka joining us up here for this session. So I would like to ask all of the panelists to come up here, please. Yes, please. Can the speakers for the panel please come up to the stage?
Welcome to the final panel, Reflections in Closing. It's a great privilege for me to be here. My name is Mark Dybel again. I'm a professor at Georgetown University. The co-moderator is the great Queen of Africa, Yvonne Chaka Chaka. And it's a great privilege for both of us to be associated with this tremendous panel of heroes for both of us, I know. The session will focus on what will become the Tokyo Declaration, and it's appropriate in so many ways that the UHC Declaration, that this be known as the Tokyo Declaration, as has been talked about before, long before we had the term universal health coverage, even before Alma Ata, Japan invented and implemented universal health coverage and the associated human security agenda. Since that time, they have led the intellectual, the advocacy, and the academic push for universal health coverage, which culminated in its conclusion in the SDGs. We would not be sitting here were it not talking about UHC were it not for Japan and the people of Japan. And of course, a key part of that and a key leader is the Minister of Health. And so we're very privileged to have the Honorable Minister of Health, Labor and Welfare joining us again today as he opened the session yesterday. The Honorable Katsunobu Kato, who will talk about and explain the declaration to us. And you should all now have the declaration before you. So is the Honorable Minister... There he is. Honorable Minister.
Thank you for the introduction. First of all, I sincerely thank all participants for all their valuable contribution during these 2 days. Here, I'm delighted to announce that the Tokyo Declaration has now been adopted among the co-organizers to boost our commitment towards achieving UHC. The Global Monitoring Report released yesterday by the WHO and the World Bank articulates where we stand now in our progress toward UHC. Half of the world's population, over 3.5 billion people, are yet to have access to basic health service, and 800 million people suffer from financial burden of healthcare expenditures, and 100 million people are pushed into poverty due to health expenditures every year. Faced with these challenges, the global committee needs to accelerate collective effort toward UHC. I would like to highlight 3 key points from the declaration. First of all, the declaration reaffirmed that the achievement of UHC is one of the cornerstones of the Sustainable Development Agenda. Investing sufficient domestic resources to strengthen health systems for UHC will have several policy benefits. Achieving UHC will expand a productive, healthy workforce and also reduce poverty. It also promotes equity through income redistribution and the prevention of financial catastrophe to households. Therefore, UHC will contribute to prosperity and stability in each country. Thus, bring peace to the world as a whole. Secondly, Tokyo Declaration calls for strong ownership and leadership in each country to accelerate progress toward UHC. Political commitment at the highest level and the progress mobilization of the required financial resources by finance and health ministries will be crucial for providing affordable health care for all. As development partners, we are committed to promoting the establishment and strengthening of country platform for UHC in each country. However, our engagement and support must be based on strong ownership and leadership at the country level. Lastly, the declaration emphasizes the role of UHC to strengthen health system to protect all citizens, especially in the fragile regions, from health crises such as infectious disease outbreaks. The establishment of resilient and sustainable health system for UHC will minimize the damage of the infectious diseases outbreaks and national disasters. To conclude, the Tokyo Declaration clearly demonstrates our collective political commitment and common action to achieve UHC in all countries by 2030. On our part, Prime Minister Abe announced today Japan's commitment to accelerate programs toward UHC. For international organizations, I strongly hope that WHO, the World Bank, UNICEF, JICA, and UHC 2030 will coordinate development assistance on UHC in close cooperation with national governments. In this regard, Japan will increase support to promote UHC at the country level. Japan has consistently called for the importance of promoting UHC at G7, TICAD, and other international forums. We will continue to uphold and strengthen this momentum, including for a UN high-level meeting on UHC to be held in 2019. We look forward to working with all partners to achieve our common goal. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much to our host, Ladies and gentlemen, it's such a great pleasure to be here, and I want to say arigato gozaimasu to everybody. Well, we've got a great panel on the podium, but it's amazing. All the panelists, it's men. Why is it like that? Well, I can see it's one woman here. The previous one was 2, the other one was 1. But you know what? I think we are all men, but some of us who bring life into this world are well-organized men. We men. That's what we are. So, with our panelists here, we've got Rosemary Mburu, who is from the civil society. I've got 2 questions. The questions that I have for you is, what does the declaration mean to your organization? And how is your organization driving the UHC agenda forward?
Thank you so much. So in terms of what the declaration means to civil society, not necessarily to the organization, first of all, we appreciate the reaffirmation and the commitment by the core organizers to accelerating progress towards universal health coverage. We welcome the commitment to leaving no one behind. We, however, think that this will not happen unless we invest and commit to identifying who the left behind are, unless we put first those who are farthest behind, and unless we commit to tracking progress on leaving no one behind. We also welcome the commitment in the declaration around accelerating country progress. With country progress, however, we think that it will need to actually focus on communities and focus on primary health care. We believe that there will be no UHC without PHC, and there will be no UHC without communities. The other thing, we actually also welcome the commitment around innovations. With innovation, we believe that one of the best innovations is around publicly taxed services. And therefore, we are looking at how this can be implemented in terms of reducing user fees, in terms of reducing catastrophic health expenditure. Because we also believe that there will be no UHC with user fees. In terms of what the role of civil society is in taking this agenda forward, civil society has significantly contributed and will continue to contribute towards supporting service provision, supporting demand creation, supporting work around accountability, supporting advocacy on universal health coverage, but most importantly also being the voice that will speak up when harmful policies are being encouraged and implemented, when civil society and communities are being excluded, either in terms of access to services or in terms of decision-making processes. So we will speak up, we will continue to write and build the social contracts on UHC and make sure that we go through all the lines to ensure that we are doing our part in terms of mutual accountability to ensure that those are achieved. And we'll start today, Yvonne. We do have a civil society statement that actually calls for commitment around those 3 things, which are human rights centered and people-centered approach, ensuring that no one is left behind, also looking at public financing and international donor solidarity, but also looking at, and the third thing is actually looking at accountability and good governance. And we'll have these copies which everyone can sign. So no UHC without PHC, no UHC without communities, and no UHC with user fees. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rosemary. I'm actually very happy that it was a woman who started speaking. Ladies and gentlemen, as a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador, I'm happy to introduce to you my boss, Mr. Anthony Lake, to please tell me what does the declaration mean to UNICEF and how is UNICEF intending driving this going forward?
Thank you very much. And let me first apologize for being gender challenged, but what can I do? And I'm so glad Rosemary is here. The declaration certainly means a great deal to UNICEF in offering a way forward, in offering a guide and a wonderful international commitment to this most important of issues. But I want to echo what Rosemary said. I doubt very much that very many of the publics are going to commit the declaration to memory. And it is, to me, I think, very important that we work not only to maintain our commitments here as international organizations and governments, but also to bring publics around this cause with the passion that it deserves for this most basic of all rights that every person in the world has. And the civil society will play an important role in that. But that said, let me say that UNICEF is absolutely committed to pursuing this declaration for two reasons, primarily. One is that it is a moral imperative. Anytime a child dies anywhere in the world for lack of health care, that is an international moral failure. And secondly, the strategic imperative. It seems to me impossible that we are going to reverse the intergenerational cycles of poverty that we see around the world unless we are able to provide to the children of the poorest equal health care, or almost equal, to be real, with the children of the wealthiest. If that does not happen, the intergenerational cycles of poverty will continue. So what will UNICEF do? Well, we pledge to help to build efficient and integrated healthcare services at the community level wherever we can. And when I say integrated, I mean first that we use the healthcare systems at the community level to deliver not just in one healthcare sector, but to use, for example, polio systems now to also build onto them HIV testing, vaccinations of other kinds, et cetera. Secondly, to integrate the healthcare systems with related systems such as for water, sanitation, et cetera. And third, to use them at the community level to remind parents and caregivers that it is not only their children's bodies that are at stake, but their children's brains. And this means using healthcare workers to convince parents that they need to provide their children with good nutrition, that they need to protect them from violence, that they need to protect them from pollution, and above all, they need to, or almost above all, that they need to stimulate the brains of their children and provide them with that most precious of all commodities, love. A final point, that as we work then to supply better health care through better health care systems at the community level, we also have to see to the demand. And unless the health care that the poor receive, which is so often poorer than the health care that the rich receive, if what we supply is poor, then the people in the communities are simply not going to go. And there will not be a demand for the services that we're providing. So quality is tremendously important. In sum, as I've listened, it is so clear that UHC is not a sufficient condition for the progress of societies and nations, but it is certainly a necessary one. And we have to meet that necessity. If I could make one last thank you, not only to my colleagues, wonderful colleagues at the World Bank and WHO, and let me thank especially the government of Japan, but also I'm reminded that events like these are rather like helicopters. For every hour that a helicopter is in the air, it requires 20 hours of service on the ground. And for every hour of this conference, so many of our colleagues have spent at least 20 hours in preparing this, and I would like to offer them, I know for all of us, our heartfelt thank you.
Thank you very much, Tony. Now I'm going to turn the spotlight to the man with the deepest pocket. Deep, deep, deep pocket. Yes, Mr. Jim Yong Kim. I think I'm going to go to the man with the deepest pocket. Mr. Jim Yong Kim from the World Bank. This is the World Bank.
The person with the deepest pockets is Deputy Prime Minister Taro Aso, who's there by far. Yvonne, thank you so much. And so, first thing I want to do, though, is to thank Tony Lake. And I think this is your last global meeting, is it not, Tony? So those of you who've worked with Tony know that he has just been transformative as a leader at UNICEF. We've worked together on so many issues, from Ebola to stunting, to the well-being of children in so many different ways, ECD. I just want to thank Tony for your dedication and commitment to UNICEF. You've completely changed the world on behalf of everyone and on behalf of children. I just want to thank you. So what are we going to do differently? Well, you heard me talk this morning about the human capital ranking and the research that we're doing. I have to just be honest with you. Part of it is to make the case to World Bank staff. Because World Bank staff still, I don't think, are completely convinced that the path toward economic growth and a competitive economy is through the health and well-being of its people. But I was just talking with Deputy Prime Minister Aso, and Japan was the first country that showed how valuable it can be to completely ignore what the World Bank tells you, right? Because they decided very early on, post-war period, when there was tremendous poverty, there's tremendous upheaval, that they were going to invest in their people first and then see what happens. And then Korea followed, and then China followed, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore, Vietnam, so many of the East Asian countries followed suit. And as Amartya Sen, the Nobel Prize-winning economist and teacher of mine, said for years, that's the difference between East Asia and the rest of the world. So we kind of knew it, but we had to get the data. And it wasn't until recently that the quality of outcome data in both health and education, the sophistication of the analytic techniques. I mean, those of you who know Chris Murray, Chris is using Bayesian methods, the same methods that the search companies use to look at these relationships. It's only been very recently that we've been able to get this kind of data. And of course, what we found is the connection to growth is just profound and will be even more profound with every passing year. And so still, we have work to do inside the World Bank Group to convince our own people that if you want growth, you build a road. If you want growth, you invest in energy. But in fact, that they've got to invest in health and education if they want to have any chance of being competitive. And it has to start with the children. And this is something that Tony has been just such a powerful advocate of, that it's nutrition on the one hand, but it's also early childhood development activities and then education as it goes. So here's what we're going to do. So one, we are going to have the courage to do a ranking that will just lead to piles and piles of anguish and anger heaped upon us and probably me personally. But it's important, because we simply have to have the courage to do it, and we will. Second thing we'll do is that we'll do everything we can to provide our own resources. I mean, we provided more IDA resources for health in this first year of our 3-year IDA cycle than we ever have provided before. And so IDA, the Fund for the Poorest Countries, will continue to expand in terms of global health. But also with the GFF, the Global Financing Facility, we promise to take every donor dollar put into GFF and multiply it. Right now it's about 1 to 4, 1 to 5. but the projects that are coming on the line looks like the leverage ratio is 1 to 8 or so. So we will continue to provide leverage financing, and we're now talking to organizations in Japan, sovereign wealth funds, pension funds, to see if we can be even more innovative in bringing more resources, because we believe that once the human capital ranking comes out, the demand from heads of state and ministers of finance will inevitably go up. The way to communicate effectively, especially with ministers of finance, is have an impact on their borrowing costs and their foreign direct investment. That's the one thing that will get everyone's attention. And because this is so real in terms of impact on potential economic growth, the ratings agencies and everyone else have to take it into account. We're gonna invest in innovation. We feel that we're behind. We feel that we're very far behind. And I was so excited to walk through the innovation fair that we had outside. And we had to limit it to 25 organizations. We could have had many, many more. And the next time we do UHC, we'd like to bring them all in, because what's happening right now is tremendous innovation. A person from Silicon Valley said to a group that I was part of, he said, everyone should just take note that today is the slowest day for innovation you will ever experience again for the rest of your life. Right? And because of that, we're not doing enough to talk to these innovators about how their innovations could have an impact in developing countries. And finally, we're gonna try to be better and better and better at working with partners. I've been very determined to make sure that our working relationship with UNICEF, WHO, all the UN system gets better and better every year. And I think there's no question that over the last 5.5 years we've gotten better, up to the point that often now we just make direct disbursements to WHO and UNICEF because they can do the work in ways that we cannot. And we have that now relationship also with the World Food Program. But in putting that together, I think we've really increased our effectiveness overall. So those are the ways that it will affect us. And I hope that as we do things like put the human capital ranking out there, we need all of you to amplify those messages and really put the pressure on so that finally, we give every person on earth an equal opportunity for the kind of prosperity and opportunity that they all deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you very much, Jim. I am going to ask you to tell the countries to do exactly that. Otherwise, I'm going to ask you not to give them the money. Ladies and gentlemen, now to our newly appointed Director General for WHO, Mr. Tedros. The question that I have for you is, what does the declaration mean to your organization, the WHO, and how is your organization driving UHC agenda forward?
Yeah, thank you. I'm actually overwhelmed, and I will declare one thing in addition to the declaration. My declaration is that the momentum is building like never before, and let's really use the opportunity. The reason I said this is, declaration is about, for me, about something I see in reality. And I saw that in this country, by the way. I had a meeting with Prime Minister Abe. I had a meeting with my brother, Minister Kato, the health minister. And of course, my other friends from Japan. And I read also, I haven't met the Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister also, but I read his article. And you can see the level of commitment. That's the declaration, the real thing I saw and I witnessed. And the level of commitment is beyond words. That's the declaration. That's what I see now. And then you see it in the World Bank. You see it in UNICEF. You see it in Global Fund, Gavi. You see it in other countries that are represented here. Senegal, the president was here, and others, and countries that have made progress. You see the momentum building. And then the signs are also clear. It's not just a coincidence. We have agreed at the UN General Assembly to discuss universal health coverage at the UN General Assembly in 2019. And December 12 was declared as UHC Day just the day before today. But not only that, Prime Minister Abe announced 2.9 billion US dollars today for UHC. And we will be signing an agreement between WHO and World Bank focused on UHC later today. Things are really coming together. I see things coming together. Maybe I'm lucky and coming the right time now. It's really coming together. That's what the message of the declaration is. This is the time. There is a momentum building. Let's use it. We miss it once, I don't think there will be another opportunity. We have been talking about this opportunity for 70 years. WHO, 70 years. It was founded in 1948. Almata Declaration, 40 years since we said health for all. Is it happening? Really not. There is some progress. But imagine 2.5 billion people still out of service. We're nowhere. 800 million people affected by out-of-pocket or financial problems when they seek health care, and 100 million of them getting into crisis every year. And we said 3 people every second. But one thing that makes me really today hopeful is the momentum which I have told you. If we can use it right, it will really bring what we wanted to be 70 years ago and 40 years ago. But for me, the declaration and the UHC meeting and the UHC day, it's not just a day. For me, it's a daily business. We have to think and advocate for UHC and promote UHC every single day. Momentums can continue to grow if we give them our maximum attention. So from the declaration, this is what I'm saying. Then how are you going to use this for WHO? It's simple. I will use the momentum. I don't want to miss this momentum. WHO should use this momentum. WHO is shy by design. It should stop being shy. It should be proactive. It should run like hell. We should work with sense of urgency. That's what I would. And then the second is, Jim had already said it, nothing can happen without partnerships. When I say WHO should be proactive, it's not alone. It should be through effective partnerships. UN agencies, civil societies, governments, private sector, all of us, through accountability and building effective partnerships, and as what is stated in the SDGs, I think we should make it happen. And the final thing I will do is, all our efforts should be focused at country level, all partners. I have met civil society this morning and yesterday. That was what we have agreed. Change can come only if we're really strong at the implementation. I'm glad Tony, my brother, said, 1 hour flight, 20-hour service. I didn't know about it, although I'm really interested in aviation. So thank you for that. And that's it. It's the country level intervention that's key to success. So the foundation should be at country level. If anything is going to be measured, it should be what we really did at country level, or the progress we make, or otherwise. Then finally, I would like to again join Jim in congratulating Tony for his excellent service although I don't agree when people say, oh, this is his last moment now on this. I think we will need him. We need him. He has still a lot to give. He's a very, very remarkable man, beyond words. I have worked with him very closely when he was even the national security advisor to President Clinton. And I am a living witness that he's such a remarkable person that we need to continue to exploit him. So he's not out, he is in. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Tedros. Thank you very much. Yes, WHO should not be shy. Like a new bride, go out there. We want to see you. Ladies and gentlemen, to our host country, the President of JICA, Mr. Shinichi Kiyatoka.
First of all, thank you very much for very active participation to this very important conference. I assumed my responsibility 2 years ago, October 2015. And then the last meeting in December 2015 was, to me, the first big meeting in my capacity. And then that was a good meeting. But the success is, beyond our imagination in this case. The meeting high-level meeting in the United Nations in September was a very good one. But at that time, I was not expecting this kind of success. I, first of all, thank all the leaders and all the friends who have committed to public health greatly. And then I can say that JICA has been promoting this issue, universal health coverage, for many, many years. Together with other issues, nutrition, agriculture, education, water, these constitute one concept of human security, people-centered development. This is our forte, and this has been our focus for many, many years. Now, with finding that this concept is being accepted by so many leaders with such enthusiasm, I'm very happy, more than happy. And then I also would like to say that as I'm originally a historian, I can say that we cannot say anything totally new from what we have done in the past. And then this is the reason why we are promoting this agenda, is that because we have been promoting this issue in the past, in Meiji period, and also after the war. And now it's not coincidence that our leader is the grandson of Prime Minister Kishi, who prepared the universal health coverage system. And then, as I have spoken already, the universal health coverage is not a result of economic growth, but this is a driving force for economic development. And also this can unite the countries, organizations, and peoples. So I think this is a very, very important kind of thing. And not only that, this is also supported by our Deputy Prime Minister Aso, because his grandfather was the architect of the post-war Japan. And also his great-great-grandfather was an architect of Meiji Japan. So it's not coincident. And then no combination is stronger than, grandson of Kishi, grandson of Yoshida. And I'm very much looking forward to listening to his speech after this meeting. Anyhow, what JICA is going to do after this one is, certainly I think that this is Tokyo Declaration contains some ambitious visions, but I think we can make it. And as for JICA will continue to play a joint leadership role in strengthening the global momentum toward achieving UHC by cooperating with other countries. We already have very good relations in Asia, Africa, and so forth. So we will strengthen and expand our cooperation with other countries. And also, we will, have a better and more cooperation with the universities and the businesses, and also the civil societies, this is very important to promote this issue. I'd like to ask you again, each one of you to commit yourselves to realizing the vision outlined in this Tokyo Declaration. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before I hand over to Mark, I want to say to each and every one of you, I'm on my way, can't stop me now. You can do the same. What have you done today to make you feel proud? Thank you.
Well, we had a song in the opening session yesterday, and now we had a song in the closing session today. So one was slightly better than the other. Sorry, Stefan. Thank you very much for that excellent final presentation, because it's a tremendous lead into the next segment, which is the final speech for this remarkable conference before some concluding remarks, which will be made by the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance. As has also been noted, not only is he in those accomplished jobs, but he's now an accomplished global health policy author, having published in Lancet recently, and I hope all of you have read it or will read it. When we look back in UHC, it will actually be a very seminal article, following up on an article written by Prime Minister Abe, actually in Lancet. Lancet's becoming a bit of the government of Japan's outlet. But Honorable Taro, thank you very much for your comments.
Sorry. Thank you all for attending the UHC forum today. Well, first of all, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to the President Kim of the World Bank, the Director General Tedros, I hope this pronunciation is correct, Tedros of the WHO, and the Executive Director Lake of UNICEF, and the President Kitaoka of JICA, who are here as the co-organizer of this forum with the government of Japan. I feel very encouraged by the strong resolve to realize the UHC expressed during this forum. It is also a great achievement that the discussion of this forum have been consolidated in the forum of the Tokyo Declaration. Minister Kato has already summarized the content of Tokyo Declaration. To conclude this forum, I will touch upon what I believe are the key driving elements for promotion of the UHC in the future. First, the importance of the individual countries learning from each other's experiences. While I believe the Japan social security system is among the world's finest, the population aging is progressing rapidly. To address this situation, Japan is implementing the necessary enhancement of social security, while at the same time steadily undertaking reform. This aims to ensure the sustainable social security system. Japan's experiences should be useful for countries aspiring to achieve UHC, while Japan may also learn from the experiences of other countries. I hope the UHC forum going forward will continue to provide an opportunity for such a mutual learning. Second, the crucial role of the finance ministry in achieving UHC. As he mentioned, recently I had the great honor to contribute to the article to the Lancet journal. I'm completely outside of so-called medical doctor or something, no, not at all. The focus of the article was the crucial role of the finance ministries in achieving the UHC. However, the lofty ideas we may have on the UHC, it will not work without financial resources. Besides the achievement of UHC will contribute to social stability and to economic growth by helping to expand the middle class and realize a more equitable income distribution. In this light, it is a truly welcome development that this forum was attended by the participants from finance ministries and the addition to the health ministries of many, many countries. Through its trust fund in the World Bank, Japan provides a technical assistance to countries on the establishment of the promotion of the country's platform for UHC. We strongly encouraged our peer ministries of finance to encourage in and play the crucial role in such platform. Third, the utilization of international aid. While the domestic financial resources should be primary source of funding to realize UHC, external financial resources can effectively complement that. International aid is at the center of such external resources. In this respect, the Global Financial Facility, or the GFF, is an innovative facility that effectively mobilizes the funds of the International Development Association of IDA of the World Bank. As a part of the pledge made by the Prime Minister Abe this morning, Japan will provide $30 million to the GFF Trust Fund over the next 3 years. In addition, Japan is ready to contribute another $20 million to the GFF contingent upon the confirmation of an increase in its effect of mobilizing the more IDA funds. It was very encouraging to hear the President Kim expressing today its intention to increase the investment in health, nutrition, and population needs as a part of the IDA over the next 3 years, from $3.4 billion in the current year. Japan has a share of about 10% in the financial contribution to IDA. If progress is made in the IDA use of IDA funds in its health sector, it effectively means the commensurate increase in Japan's contribution to the health sector. I expect greater use of IDA funds for health in the future. Well, the UHC forum is now closing, but we must keep moving forward the ultimate goal of realizing the UHC. What's important is that policymakers exercise leadership and ownership to achieve the intermediate target set forth in the Tokyo Declaration. As a member of the Japanese government, I will do my utmost to ensure that we can show the further progress in our effort to realize the UHC at the next UHC forum. Thank you again for all of your coming. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Honorable Minister. It falls to me to provide some concluding remarks, which is impossible, except to say what an extraordinary meeting this has been. Truly a watershed in universal health coverage. And while we've talked about many things, including the challenges, the brutal numbers of what it takes to achieve universal health coverage by 2030, this meeting has been dominated by what Dr. Tedros called momentum and opportunity and optimism. And just the fact that so many people made a pilgrimage to the birthplace of universal health coverage here in Tokyo, led by Prime Minister Abe now, and his great-grandfather before that. with the ministers here, with the heads of state from President Macky Sall, from the president of Myanmar, to the leaders of the organizations represented here, to the leaders of civil society and the representatives of the community. Everyone has come together to build that momentum for universal health coverage. And what an exciting moment that is. And if you think about it, 5 years ago, this meeting was inconceivable. We would never have expected this type of meeting with this type of support at this level for universal health coverage just 5 years ago. And so as we look at the challenges, we can also look and say what we thought was not possible 5 years ago is possible. What we think might not be possible in 15 years from now will be possible if we stick with what the declaration says and what people have said today. The second and final point I would make is what an extraordinary meeting it has been because the focus has been on human beings. Not an abstract phrase of universal health coverage, but every person, every human being, from the community up on throughout society. And so perhaps universal health coverage, and UHC has a corollary, UHC, unleashed human capital. And with that, and the move for UHC, thank you very much for participating, and thank you to this extraordinary panel and to the government of Japan, led by the Prime Minister and the ministers and members of parliament and the entire people of Japan who hosted us today. And now to turn back to Susan, who's going to ask us all to get off the stage so the next group can come.
Thank you very much. All right. Thank you to Mark and Yvonne and all of the speakers here. This has been a full 2 days of discussion and sharing of experience. As the Tokyo Declaration reminds us, we have a lot of work ahead of us in order to achieve universal health coverage by 2030. But this forum makes me feel very confident that together we are going to get there. And I appreciate all of your participation for the past 2 days. And look forward to working together as we move forward. And now I would like to hand the mic over to our hosts for the next public event. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Susan. Good evening, everybody. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Uh-oh, you know, the public forum is for people who still have a pulse. So I don't know if you'll get in. Good evening, everybody. That's more like it. So the fun is about to begin. I know you don't see Channel 4 over there because we are the Channel 4 girls, the Fun Time girls. We are here to tell you about the public forum, the UHC public forum, which is taking place in just a moment, in 10 minutes, if you will. So we're going to be celebrating the communities and the countries who've really been giving this a big push. And we're going to express that through musical performances, through artistic expression. And we'd like to ask all of you to please join us. But Nico, let me introduce my co-host here.
Yes. And while this event is open to everyone, we'll be giving priority to the members of the general public who registered in advance on Eventbrite and UHC forum participants who indicated interest on the official forum registration form. So if you check the box labeled public event on the registration form, you should have already received a special white Health for All button that you should show at the door to get in. So to the rest of you, don't fear, there may still be room to join the event, but you'll simply be asked to wait a few more minutes for those who registered to enter first.
So just to find the event, everybody, hello, I know you're all busy, but I've got a very good announcement for you. There's wine and sake, and you need me to know where to get it. Hello? Okay, great. So what you do, when you come out, you turn right, you head to the Magnolia Room. Please do that in the next 10 minutes. We've got ushers here who are wearing yellow T-shirts who are going to point you in the right direction. Everybody, please, if we could just make it in 10 minutes, we'd really appreciate it. Thank you very much.